Welcome everyone to the Bullish Entrepreneur, Ep.2.
Ep.2, guys.
Of our podcast. Thank you for tuning in.
And for all our people listening to our podcast, be sure to check out the Bullish Entrepreneur YouTube channel for all our latest content.
Yes, sir. What are we talking about today? We mentioned in our last episode about building an entrepreneurial journey, right? And being able to find different ways of making income. Whether these streams of income are built online, which is the main factor, right? Where you don't have to open up a whole business and a retail location. You now can run this business straight from your phone, even on Instagram,
Digital
Facebook,
convenience.
The digital convenience, right? And the three main topics that we're going to be talking about today are discipline, behaviors, and building relationships and networks. Before you can go out and affect other people and help other people, you need to learn how to help yourself and how to be disciplined from the inside out. If you can't handle things on your own, right, and manage you getting to work on time, doing simple, small tasks, getting your bed done, cleaning up, the house, getting some chores done. If you can't get these things done, how do you expect to build a business, even if it's online from the convenience of your own home? So that's really what we want to hone in on this podcast and talk about.
It's basically those small things that get you in a rhythmic routine that allows you to then have a plan moving forward. So you're not basically going every day haphazardly or nonchalantly letting things just pass you by.
It helps you hold yourself accountable. And that's something, accountability is a huge piece that we're going to be talking about. And as Abdul said, we're talking about building a plan.
Having that discipline, having that plan, that blueprint you can work with that allows you to basically become an entrepreneur that is working towards something versus a entrepreneur who says they want to do something and don't get anything done.
We're going to dive right into the podcast and go in depth on how to build these behaviors, disciplines, and relationships, right? The key to building relationships and networks. We're going to dive right into it and give you the details. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you again for tuning in. Going right into it, Abdul, we have discipline, behaviors, and networking, right? Building relationships like we spoke about. So one of the main things that we're going to start off with is discipline. You can't build networks and social groups without having to discipline yourself, right? If you're trying to network with other people who have their own businesses or who are trying to build their own businesses, most of the time, these are people who have their lives in check, right? And we don't mean by they don't have any problems or, their lives are perfect. Nobody's life is perfect. There's one thing that really links all people who are successful, and that has to do with your discipline. If you're somebody that's working a 9 to 5, one of the main things that you're worrying about is waking up on time, having enough sleep the night before, and then beating the traffic to get to work, and then hoping that you get to work on time. Right? There's a lot of things that go into that. Just at the time that you wake up, that's where it really starts. Because let's say you have a shift at 9 a.m. and you wake up at 8:30. You're not going to give yourself enough time for there to be traffic and then you still be early on time to work, or accidents to occur. You normally message your boss and like, hey,
I'm going to be a few
minutes late because there's a car accident that happened. And then the one thing that your manager, if they know what they're talking about, and they want to help you be better, they'll either say, okay, yeah, no problem, and then give you a write-up or take note of it to write you up later on. Or some leaders that actually know how to manage their businesses will come and tell you, hey, wake up earlier, first of all. Leave your house.
That's definitely happened to me.
At least 2 hours before. It's happened to me too. Actually, what I'm talking about is a talk that a manager had with me, right? When I was working at T-Mobile, he came up to me and he's like, hey, there's always something that's popping up, and it's okay. I understand that. Life happens. I was 19 at the time. I knew nothing about discipline. I'm still learning about my discipline now. And he goes, why don't you leave your house about an hour and a half early? I'm like, why would I leave my house an hour and a half early and get to work an hour and a half, an hour before? That my shift starts. No, I'd rather be home doing other things and getting things done because that job required so much of me. And of course, I didn't at that point, I was already getting tired of working at that company, right? I wanted to branch out and do my own thing. I had been working there for 5 years already. And on the 6th year, that was the end of it, right? A lot of things went into the discipline piece if you don't love what you're doing, which is another thing about discipline. If you don't love what you're doing, the discipline is not going to be there no matter how hard you work at it. Right? And you're never going to start off loving something, but slowly working towards that, you gain some type of respect or love for it, and that passion starts building. Right? So, like you were saying, it's happened to you before, right?
I remember when I was working in retail at Old Navy, there was a time when, I was at school trying to juggle college and work life. Like, it was hard for me to make that balance and have that discipline to understand that time management played a huge role. And it was just like, oh my God, like, how do I do this? So there was one time specifically that I could remember where, you know, I was at school, I had the night classes from like 6 to 9, and I completely forgot that I was scheduled to work that day, and I hadn't informed my boss, and it just, I don't know what it was. Maybe it was the stress of school at the time in the class, but it just completely slipped my mind. And next thing I know, I get a call, and I'm in the middle of class, and it's my job saying, hey, where are you? You were scheduled to work this shift. And, you know, I was like, oh my God, man, my bad. You know, I completely forgot, you know, and he was just like, yeah, it's cool, but next time remember, like, try to, you know, make a schedule, or
set a reminder on your phone.
Set a reminder on your phone. You know, we got technology for a reason.
Use it, right?
You know,
to your
use
advantage.
it. Yeah. Like, there's times where things are just going to be out of your control. It's okay.
Of course.
If you deviate from your plan at times, that's okay. But when you make sure that you can bring it back to what you have originally set for yourself, then at the end of the day, it's you being human, but still sticking to your overall agenda.
Correct.
And not just, you know, leaving yourself to the mistakes and saying, oh, well, I'll get it next time. Yes, it's good to have that mindset, but have that mindset with the intent on making sure that you stick to your goals and stick to your agenda. Because if you can do that, then you can really hold yourself accountable when you make the statement that, you know, hey, I'm going to get it on the next time or the next try.
So just to kind of give the audience a tidbit as to what we're talking about, right? How would you plan out your day the night before? And the example of that would be the night before, I'll go on and say, okay, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. I'm going to go to the gym and work out for about 30 to 45 minutes. I'm giving myself leeway time in case I wake up at 5:30 and I don't wake up at 5 on the dot, but I aim for 5 o'clock. And that's the time I wake up normally. And if I deviate from my plan, even then I'm still waking up at 6 a.m. if I'm an hour late on a day where I deviate from my plan. So I wake up, I go to the gym. I come back to my house, and then I'm ready to trade around 7 a.m., right? I'm looking at the charts, running through everything that I want to see for the day, looking at my watch list, and looking at the different currencies and commodities that I'm going to trade. From 7 a.m., I already know that I'm going to be trading until about noon. There's times where I'm done trading the first hour that I'm done trading, right? And that's great. For my discipline, that actually, it's like, it rewards me. If I'm done trading earlier, I have the rest of my day to do other things. And now I can just kind of go with the flow and be spontaneous. And, you know what, let me go kayaking today. Let me go hit the jet ski.
Yeah, because you took care of what needed to be taken care of from the get-go. You had that plan to check those things off your list.
Exactly. So it's like a treat in itself if you get done with those things early. But the whole thing is planning these things out, right? Writing it out. Okay, if I'm going to sleep today, what is it that I want to do tomorrow? And you start off with planning one day ahead the night before you go to sleep and doing all those things, making your bed at a certain time as soon as you wake up, you know, working on your side hustle. And then, you know, going into work if you have a work shift. By the time you get to your work shift, you've already accomplished most of what you needed to do in the day. All your errands are done in the morning, and now you can go in with a happy attitude and even kill it in your job and do better. Right? So not only will these disciplines help you build something outside of your job, but it will make you the best person at your job. Because you're the most disciplined.
Basically separates you from those who essentially don't have a plan, right? You're not in that position where you feel like you're lost, you're stuck at a crossroad, you're kind of like, all right, if you do have free time, like you said, that is rewarding for those who do have a plan. You're not saying, oh man, I got all this time now, what do I do? Now you can probe your mind with, you know, productive learning tasks, right? You know, basically allowing yourself to take in significant information that overall is beneficial for you, and, you know, leveling up your mindset, right? You don't want to just be a blank canvas and then turn into an abstract painting all of a sudden, right? It's like all over the place, even though, you know, it can be beautiful at times, but not when you're really trying to set goals for yourself and overall make something happen that you want specifically, right? When it comes to that, when it comes to specifics, you gotta have that plan.
Why not get up before everyone's awake in the house? Right? Don't get up when everybody's already up and now they're expecting things of you, especially if you have a family. It can be tough. And that's who we really want to reach out to, is not just the entrepreneurs who are trying to do it or those trying to build a side hustle, but we understand that the majority of people have families that they need to tend to, kids, you know, that they need to take care of. And with all this, the discipline can really go out off a straight.
Feel like there's necessities now that you have to pay more attention to.
Yes.
And that's completely understandable. When you make that commitment is for life. But it's also the same case when it comes to a business or something that you're really passionate about that you want to see succeed. You have to make that commitment, and that commitment as well is life. But there has to be some sort of management as to why we're talking about the planning, and making sure that you know what you're going to do the night before you go into your actual work day. The intention is exactly what you need to have first before you can even make that plan.
Yes.
You know, me personally, I get up in the morning and I make sure that I at least have something to eat. It's recommended of me considering my health condition. I have ulcerative colitis, so I have to have my body regulated to a way in which there's things flowing in and out, because if I don't, it can cause our flare-ups. So there's a specific regimen of certain things I got to eat and certain things I can't eat, and that discipline alone plays into everything else that I do in my life.
It's making you pay attention to the details.
Yes, because if I don't, I can have severe consequences, and it's a whole life thing. And it's the same thing with your business, right? You know, each day is a day for opportunity. You don't want to waste time. You don't want to make a day just come and go and you don't, get things accomplished. If you think that way, things will often pass you by in a way in which you don't even notice at times, right?
That's true.
You'll wake up with the biggest question mark and you just be like, oh man, what happened? Oh, where did the time go?
I mean, right now we're in 2019. We're already towards the end of the year. We've passed the halftime, right?
Summer's over.
That's it. So it's crazy that, I feel like the year just started, and, because we've stayed so busy and doing a lot of things and working on many things, the year has passed really fast.
Yeah.
But I think to myself how I was 2 years ago, when the year was almost gone and I was already like, okay, this is another year at my job.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep working here. I'm guessing, next year will be better. I hope it is. And on the contrary, every year they found a way to cut back on paychecks, right? So I was working commission-based. I worked only in sales. That's one of the things that I loved about it was, working commission-based, you're making money off of the effort that you're putting in.
Yeah.
You're not getting just paid hourly and you're able to keep this hourly check. Like, they'll pay you hourly, but the hourly is nothing. It's mainly based off of commission.
Yeah.
And that really taught me about the discipline of showing up on time, being there for my customers, being prepared.
Yeah.
Right? Being prepared is another big thing that even once you have these small disciplines down packed and you need to now tend to something bigger, you always need to be prepared for those situations. To give you guys some homework, I feel like that would be better. Yeah. Write down 5 things, whether on your phone, on your notes, anything that you want to do. Just write it down on the 5 things that you want to do and get done tomorrow.
Yeah.
And just seek to accomplish those things. If you can accomplish 5 things that you wrote down today, accomplish them tomorrow, then it would just roll off one off the other.
Like I mentioned earlier, each day is an opportunity, for something to happen great. Each day is an opportunity for greatness,
If you believe it.
If you believe it. If you believe
Because if you don't believe it, you're not going to find these opportunities.
Exactly.
You're not going to see the opportunities in people that you meet.
The Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin, she has a song that says, what a difference a day makes, and if you don't know that song, I suggest you please
I'm sure
listen
they
to
have
it.
to know that song.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everybody does, but, some people may not, you never know.
I
but
agree.
Definitely check it out. The point I'm trying to make is that basically, if you were to make that intent to change your life in a way that's for the better, right? And you say that, I'm going to be intentional in everything I do. I'm not going to leave it up to chance. From that day on, the world has endless possibilities. Now you're changing your whole mindset, your whole perspective. You're allowing different trains of thought to come into play that can be beneficial for you that you probably didn't notice before because you were too stuck on, not having the intent in place from the get-go.
Yes. Exactly.
So that alone is what
being intentional.
Yeah, being intentional in turn allows you to conduct the discipline that you need to get what you need to get done and maximize, your productivity in a way that is very, in some cases, profitable for your business or, beneficial to you mentally and health-wise. It just allows you to become that better person you were meant to be. And that in turn is what? The bullish mindset, people.
Yes.
That's exactly what we're trying to get at here.
Yes.
All of what we're talking about, the discipline, everything that we're mentioning is geared towards that one thing. That is the bullish mindset. Always stepping forward with your best foot and allowing yourself to be better than the day you were before.
You couldn't have said that any more perfect, right? It was great. Yeah. And I love the explanation. What a difference a day makes is huge because a day can make all the difference. Tomorrow can make a huge difference after you watch this video. Because we said write down 5 things, whether in your notes or on a piece of paper, that you're going to do the next day and write it down the night before. So once you write those 5 things down the night before and you accomplish them the next day, that one day made all the difference because you hadn't been doing those 5 things the previous days or the previous years. Maybe never in your life, right? You do small disciplines which you may consider a discipline, but it's not really a discipline. It's just things that you naturally do. So find 5 things that you don't normally do and include it into your routine.
So now that we talked about, the intention and the discipline and, the list of 5 things that you should write down now that you can hope to accomplish or should accomplish and will accomplish, the next day. Now we're going to get into the behaviors and how you can apply that intentional aspect of your discipline into your actions that you want to help cultivate and harness so that you can get those things on your list done. And, the behaviors for me, it's easier to understand what you're doing versus what you're not doing when you go back and make another list, right? When you're able to see it, it allows you to keep yourself, in a state where you're really holding yourself accountable. Why? Because you're seeing what you can do.
So what you're currently doing what are your current disciplines and current behaviors?
What you hope to accomplish after realizing that, hey, these things that I'm doing now, I could probably improve on and allow me to become a better person, have a better mindset. So that's something that's very encouraging to know when you actually can understand what it is that you need work on. Because if you constantly tell yourself, right, I know I have bad habits, I know people have mentioned to me that certain things that I do are not cool or, certain things I can, kind of like work on. But if you never actually sit down with yourself and look yourself in the mirror, talk it out, or, write it down on your mirror, write it down on your notes or whatever the case may be, those things, like we mentioned earlier, will just stay in the cloud. And you don't want that. You don't want to be sitting in limbo on how to improve yourself. You want to make sure that, you can see what you need to fix and fix it, right? Immediately. Entrepreneurs, like we mentioned earlier, are doers by nature. So they got to get these things done. I've done it. I'm sure you have as well. We sit down and, you kind of just list out the things that you want to improve on. The most gratifying feeling is knowing that no matter how long it takes, you can finally check that one bad habit off. And understand that it's replaced with something else. And you're like, man, now I'm making progress,
Exactly, And I hear you on that, right? Because as I told you before, I've gone through my life really with the only discipline I had to do was show up to work on time. And obviously I had school as well. I was a full-time student at the University of Miami. Managing a full-time job and full-time student was something that I consider probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do.
It's really tough.
It's hard to manage the time. And that's the one thing I learned is living so long, even with that minimal discipline that I had, just didn't cut it in trying to run my business as a trader and trying to obviously build up the bullish entrepreneur, right? We had to build up a lot of disciplines and behaviors to get these things done. But one thing that I experienced when I was 21, right, is the legal drinking age, where I didn't really drink much before when I was younger. So when I was able to go out and drink legally, it's a new behavior that came on. I hated beer, and all of a sudden I was drinking beer at every given opportunity. Every time we were at a restaurant, we were at a game, if I was fishing, anything was just an excuse to bring up beer, right? And I wasn't an alcoholic or anything, nowhere near close.
It was just casual.
It was just casual beer drinking, but I realized it was making me gain weight. It was throwing my mood off. My digestion was completely off in terms of how I was able to eat and consume other foods. And we're not here to give you a fitness lecture, right? But it's just, I slowly started cutting it out. And now I may have a beer every month, maybe once a month at a family barbecue or something, but I don't drink it as consistently as I did before because I realized it was something that changed a lot of who I was, my perspective, my mentality, my disciplines. It made me kind of ignore those disciplines. We live in Miami, right? So this is the party central. All of my friends, I can tell you about 95% of my friends drink to this day at least every other weekend. And the majority of those drink every weekend. There's nothing wrong with drinking, just everything has to be done in moderation.
Exactly.
Same like junk food. You can eat junk food. There's nothing wrong with it. It's unhealthy. But if you eat junk food every day,
you're going to be too sluggish.
You're not giving your body the energy and proteins it needs to give your mind the way it needs to work. If you're not drinking enough water, water's like the oil of a car, right? But in your body, water needs to flow through every one of your organs to keep them running smoothly, including your brain, your motor functions, everything else. So if you're not eating right, you're not drinking enough water, you're not doing some of these basic disciplines, which are the behaviors at this point, right? You're not going to succeed as good as you want to or as fast as you want to. you can still get things done and ultimately thrive. Some people may say, okay, what if I start eating healthier and doing all these things? It's harder because they have to meal prep. And what is meal prepping? Doing something the day before so you can prepare for your week. Discipline. Right? Discipline. So those behaviors just have to do with you disciplining yourself and committing these behaviors so that you can feel better. And, that's just facts. Yeah. That people will feel better if they're drinking enough water, if they're eating healthier, you're going to feel better. That's science. And you should track your progress and what you're doing daily and how you're feeling. Keep a journal at hand. It's something that I do. Is I journal how I feel every single day that I'm trading, as well as how I'm feeling in terms of my body, what my thoughts are for that day. And it took a while to get to that point. I bought the journal, and for a year it sat in my office. For a year. So I'm not here to tell you like, oh, we're these gurus and somebody else figured it out. We're far from it. Ourselves. We're far from it. But that's the only way that we can help you understand that you can make a change, because we're two guys here from Miami that are still trying to make that change and become better. Although we have a great uphold on our entrepreneurship, we go through the same mental struggles, and mental health is a huge thing nowadays. That was once considered taboo. And now people are starting to understand that, hey, mental health is very real. It's something that can really drive you down a bad path if you don't know how to control it or change these behaviors that are controlling your daily lives. Habits are behaviors, right? And if you can't break out of these old bad habits, then you're going to stay stuck in them in what's called the rat race. Like everybody else, the majority of the population.
And you don't want to be in the same category as everybody else. You want to stand out, right? You want to at least have control over your well-being. You don't want to leave it in someone else's hands. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do with the Bullish Entrepreneur. We're trying to give you guidelines, provide you tips and tricks, information that is needed for you to be able to take control and understand that, being the hand above a situation is a lot better than being the hand under a situation. Why? Because taking handouts is not always the best thing.
And going based off of what you just said, Abdul, it's crazy because I like to compare what everybody likes in the sports world: Ronaldo and Messi. Right? Lionel Messi, Cristiano Ronaldo. The ultimate comparison. And I'll tell you what really has set these guys apart. For our ladies who are watching right now, you may not know the comparison. Trust me, based on how we break it down right now, we're going to make it crystal clear for you. So Lionel Messi is a soccer player that plays for Barcelona, and his international team is Argentina. And then we have Ronaldo, right, who plays for Real Madrid, the soccer team in Spain, but he's from Portugal, so his international team is with Portugal. And now the difference between these two guys has been debated, right, is who's better. And the difference between the two is that we clearly see it now today, is that Messi has always been a talented player. He's been playing since the age of 17, I think, professionally for Barcelona. And he's always showed out, right? He's always had that talent. And
the little wizard.
Yes, the wizard. Like, he's done magical things on the field that just make you question how it's even humanly possible, right? But then as the time ages and goes on, you start seeing that Ronaldo was never that talented player. And he mentions that he was never talented as a young player. But the one thing that pushed him forward was that he always kept working on his craft. So here you have Messi, who, let's say, was given a silver platter. Not in the sense that he didn't have to work as hard. No, he probably had to work just as hard to get onto the team. But he had a God-given talent, if you want to say. Or he was a born talent, right? Where he didn't have to work out as much as Ronaldo and still be able to put out almost the same effect that Ronaldo was, if not better. Because Cristiano Ronaldo didn't really step into his zone until a few years ago. I would say 4 or 5 years ago, where he was now starting to take those championships over. So they reached an age limit where now talent was being depreciated by somebody who's just working harder. And that's what really separates these players today and what makes Ronaldo the player he is today. I consider him, in my opinion, the greatest player of all time. Not only because he has more Ballon d'Ors, which are the MVPs of the soccer league. He has more of those than Messi. He also has more international titles with his even though it's like one more or two more. He still has more international titles than Messi. And in the Champions League, he has double the amount of Champions League titles that Messi has. And you can credit that all to his hard work. He wasn't given this talent, but he worked hard at it and made sure that he can be as good as somebody who was given that talent and didn't work as hard for it. And eventually, Ronaldo surpassed Messi because as he aged, he kept on working. And Messi kind of took a step back. And now you see in both of their plays who is the better player, right? and who has the most titles of them all. And because he's worked his way up to get there. And I feel like that's something that everybody needs to understand is forget about your crowd, forget about everybody around you who you feel is doing better than you or who you feel has an advantage over you. None of that matters. Drop that. Just focus on you. Start off with writing the 5 things of your disciplines, right, that you want to get done, 5 behaviors that you want to get rid of, right? Write the 5 behaviors that you are doing right now that you do not like, that you question yourself when you go to bed. Should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? Make it so that you write those things down and you get rid of those behaviors, even if it takes you a year to do.
Yeah. It's all a step-by-step process, right? You know, you got to make sure you put that effort in. Make sure you work as hard as you can, not as hard as you want. Because if you make sure you work as hard as you can, you will continuously exceed your own limits. And that alone would allow you to become the better person that you're always meant to be, the better bullish entrepreneur you're always meant to be. You know, it's just kind of just understanding what you need to work on, making sure you're getting it done, and then reaping the benefits afterwards. That's simply all it takes. And you know, it's gonna take some time. It's really gonna take some time, but have that dedication, have that intention, work on that discipline.
And I hear you on that, right? It's all about having that bullish mindset, bullish heart, and bullish drive to keep on pushing even when you don't feel like doing it. Because let's be very honest, I can tell you that in this week alone, I've gotten up from my bed in the morning not feeling like doing a thing. And it just happens, right? Where I grind for so hard for, let's say, a month, and then I just get that 1 week where I crash and I don't feel like doing anything. But I've gotten up even then, and maybe I didn't accomplish all the tasks that I wanted.
But you did something.
But I did something. I got at least 1 or 2 of those tasks done. And I thought to myself, risk to reward. I've had a great month. You know, that's fine. I'll take this week. Maybe my body's telling me and listening to my body's telling me that I need to calm down, I need to relax, I need to take a step back. And I did, you know, still got some work done, just didn't follow everything to the T, and that's okay. But I know that I'm always going to be right on track, and I'm going to be able to bring myself back on track. And as long as you're able to do that mentally, then I feel like you're going to accomplish anything you put your mind to.
And it's crazy. You know what would be a great way to do those things? You know, surrounding yourself with a great group of people who help motivate you and allow you to become that person that you feel comfortable with, you know, having that network. And that's actually going to be our next topic that we're going to talk about. So we first talked about, you know, the discipline, the intent that it takes to make that plan to start doing something and becoming a better person, a better entrepreneur. Then we talked about the behaviors just now. Now we're going to go right into, you know, the network of people, your support system that helps you bring all that together, because you can't do it all by yourself. That's the toughest thing. And me personally, I had a hard time understanding that. I'm not gonna lie. You know from firsthand, being that we've known each other for so long, I've always kind of been like that solo dolo person. I got people calling me Batman all the time. Yes, all right, I might be Bruce Wayne mindset.
The lone wolf.
The lone wolf, right? Yeah, but after a while, you kind of like sit back and you think, and you're like, none of the greatest people that come to mind did it by themselves, or
no one did,
or you know, like anything that is super fantastic, anything that you can think of, from technology to amazing books to, you know, I don't know, music and anything. It was all a group effort. It started with an idea, and then that idea was cultivated and then put forth into action by a group of minds.
Even if one person took the credit for
it,
right? There's a bigger piece behind it.
Of course.
Right? A bigger support group in the back who actually helped get that accomplished. Relationships have to do with anybody that you're dealing with. From family to spouses to business partners, friends. You know, building relationships is something that I feel a lot of people have struggles with today. And a lot of it we can credit to social media. Right? Social media kind of distancing people from themselves.
Everybody's stuck on their phone, super antisocial.
People just want to text and just comment, like, and it's like, cool, I kept in check with you. Next thing you know, 5 years pass and you're like, wow, I haven't actually seen this person in 5 years. We've just been talking on social media the whole time, right? And things like that will never let you get into knowing that person. It will never let you understand the opportunities before you. You know, you're not able to share what you provide and what they can provide to the table. Right? Because that's what it is. Every relationship should be a win-win. Right? It should be a win-win. If you're selling something to your customer should be winning, you should be winning. No one's scamming another person. No one's getting one up on another person.
Exactly.
Same thing with a friendship, right? If we're friends right? I'm giving, you're giving also back.
Exactly.
And I'm not expecting while I'm giving. That's another thing. When you give, don't expect to receive something back. But when you do, you be grateful for it.
Of course.
Right? You're grateful for this because you understand that, you know, not everybody is willing to give a piece of themselves. And vulnerability is a huge piece of that, right? If you're not willing to be vulnerable, then good luck building any relationship with anybody. Family, friends, nobody. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
You need to be vulnerable. What do we mean by being vulnerable? I tell Abdul a lot of the things that are dearest to me, closest to me, the thoughts that haunt me, the you know, the demons in my head. I also talk to my girlfriend. Like, she's a great support system. Abdul's been my best friend since 4th grade. Like, you know, we have this great support system around each other where we can all talk and be as vulnerable as we want. Some of the deepest, darkest secrets we talk to each other about that haunt us and that bother us. And only then can we grow from it and learn how to really become better people.
Yeah.
Right? And in your future decisions, you now have been vulnerable. You've let the world know. It's kind of like 8 Mile, right?
Yeah.
The movie 8 Mile, Eminem. My favorite line from that is when he tells everybody who's about to diss him and the audience what he's about. He's vulnerable. He says, this is what I am. This is where I live. This is how poor I am. He lets it all out. And then he hands the mic and says, now tell these people something they don't know about me. That's strength.
Yeah.
That vulnerability now turned from something that was weak, something that he was scared people were going to bring up about him. He now was vulnerable. He brought it to the table first. And because of that, that now became his strength. What was a weakness became his strength.
Because he has the control now.
He has the control.
They can't hold anything over him at this point. He's not a puppet and Geppetto sitting there playing with the strings anymore. Now he's the one controlling the scenario. And that's simply the message in that movie, in that scene specifically. Because a lot of people have a hard time opening up. Me personally, oh my God. Like, to be honest, when I think about who I was a few years back and to who I am now, I would say my level of vulnerability on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say has skyrocketed. Why? Because I was a closed vault. Like, I didn't let people in for anything. Like, it was like my ultimate security. Like, I felt like had I opened myself up to someone, you know, it would allow them to then have something over me and then control me in a way. And I didn't want that. I wanted to have all the control. But not realizing that I wasn't really in control in the first place. Why? Because those fears, those emotions were controlling me from the jump. So man. It's
light bulb.
Yeah, it was like bing, like, oh my God, like, oh man, like you gotta realize these things, right? And you gotta understand that being vulnerable can become your strength, like you said, for B Rabbit or Eminem's character in 8 Mile. You know, it allows you to then feel alleviated. You don't feel trapped by your own skeletons in your closet anymore, right? You feel, you know, relieved that you can finally say those things that were haunting you, allow them to come out, and then be able to breathe in a sense, right? Like you don't feel suffocated by those thoughts anymore. And that in turn allows you to create those relationships that are essentially your anchor in some cases, your support group, your supporting cast.
And they hold you accountable for your actions as well.
Exactly.
Disciplines behaviors.
Because they know how you think in a sense now. Because they know that you can be this person that you want to be, that you hope to be. And they understand that, you know, this is what it's going to take for you to get there, even if you don't see it right off the bat.
And the way I feel about that is, you know, letting the audience know about ourselves and building our inner circle, right? Like currently in my inner circle, I have about 3 people.
Yeah.
I don't want you guys to think that we have this huge network of people that we can do business with and that we're able to like reach out to any of them at any time. But what did I talk to you about when we first started trading about 2 years ago?
It was all about understanding what the mind was about and how you're going to have to rectify basically those fears that you have within yourself. Trading is going to bring that out of you naturally.
Yeah.
You're so highly anticipating all these doubts and fears because why? You're dealing with your own money.
Exactly.
And that was the first thing that you told me, and I was like, all right, I hear you. But when I really started dabbling into it, it was just like, oh man, now this is hitting full circle.
Exactly. And what it really opened your mind with that, right? It happened with a few other people.
Yeah.
Right. I opened up a group chat and I reached out to 10 people that I knew who might be interested in doing the same thing I'm doing. But I told them that, hey, listen, even if you don't stick to trading, you know, it's something that I loved and wanted to keep pursuing. But I was like, even if you don't stick to trading, I want to keep this group chat open. That way we can all help each other out as we seek our own entrepreneurial journeys, because everybody was kind of working on their own side hustle.
Yeah.
And, I said in the future, this is a group of investors you have here, right? Right now we may not be anything, but in a few years, or even let's say 10, 20 years, we may be great in our fields and masters in what we do. And that can help us if you come up with a business opportunity. You don't have to seek out strangers as investors. You have a group of people who have worked with you for many years, who have their own money and their own funds to now be able to invest in you. And why do they invest in you? Because they know you. They built this network with you. And not everybody, this is the hard truth about it, the ugly truth, is that not everybody's going to stick to your circle. From those 10 people, we're back down to 3. And that's okay. Like, that's fine. You slowly start building your network, and quality over quantity. You want to make sure that everybody you're bringing into your network is going to be providing something to the table. Not necessarily that, they're going to be bringing money in, investments, whatever the case. It has nothing to do with that. But bringing anything to the table, a positive mindset, right? Where when somebody is negative, or you yourself are being negative, that person's able to step in now and hold us accountable. Hey guys, snap out of it. Let's be positive. Let's work towards a solution. And then maybe that other person in the group who, make sure that nobody slacks off. So while we're slacking, not holding each other accountable, hey, make sure we're getting our tasks done. You said that we were going to get this done. It's something that I tell Abdul. I tell him what my goals are. He tells me what his goals are. I check in with him on his goals. Hey, how are these things going? Have you started working on it? I text him, hey, have you doing this? And he texts me, hey, have you started editing the videos? Have you sifted through the audio? Have you done this? Have you done that? Have you gone to the gym? Which I've slacked the past 2 weeks. And I replied to him, and as I'm replying, I feel bad. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Don't avoid it. I said, yeah, you know what, man, I slacked, but I'm going to try to get into it ASAP. And that's it. Being vulnerable is going to be that key. And don't be afraid of worrying about what other people are thinking about you. That's another huge thing is you want to be yourself. You want to be vulnerable. And you're listening to us right now and like, you know what, man, I try to be these things. But people take advantage. People are mean. People take me for granted. These are things that you feel, and that's okay as well. And recognizing these people in your group early on when they show you their true colors is something that's going to help you weed out the bad apples.
Pretty much. It's those quote-unquote toxic relationships or stagnant relationships that don't help you grow, essentially. There's something I really cherish, which is insight, right? Positive insight that helps me in turn, change my own perspective in a way that is very beneficial for me. I can't do that on my own. I can't sit back and kind of just play with my own Rubik's Cube that is my mind and try to figure out the colors and make it all even without me personally talking to somebody else, because, even though the game is meant for one, I feel like for me, it would be beneficial if I say, I start on it, I give it a break, and I say, hey, tell me what you see, Bonar. Like, how am I doing this? Like, is there something I'm doing wrong?
Is there something I'm missing?
Is there something I'm missing? Yeah, like, because you tend to see, like, yourself focusing on certain things for so long, you get in, like, this tunnel vision, and then everything else starts to get blurred. You start to see the same things over and over and over again.
And you just need to talk to somebody and
that's
get it out.
That's all it is. You just need to talk to somebody, get it out, understand what you're not seeing, change the perspective a little bit, see how you can think about a certain situation a bit differently. It allows you to then, figure out a solution that works best. And having those core people around you, like we mentioned countless times before throughout this conversation, it's just key. It allows you to become a person who is transparent, one who is able to express themselves confidently, free of judgment, and just be comfortable in your own skin, because that in itself is one of the hardest things for most people to accomplish. There's so many people that struggle today with that. Like you said, mental health is a real thing. It's not taboo. It's not pseudoscience. It's actually truth. And a lot of that is attributed to the fact that most people are not comfortable in their own skin. They don't have that support system to tell them that, hey, it's okay. You're all right. You're great. You're loved, you're blessed, be humble. Like, all these things that you can get from your supportive cast that some people don't have play a pivotal role in life. And
it keeps you going.
It keeps you going, because this can be a lonely road at times. So thank you all for tuning in to episode 2. This has been a lovely podcast. We have, great information in store for you in the future. Just remember, write down the 5 things you want to get done. Also write down the 5 behaviors that you want to make sure you get rid of. And also assess the people around you. Understand the players in your circle, their strengths and weaknesses, and how they pertain to you. It's all about, productive development and perpetual motion, moving forward, putting your best foot forward. That's what the bullish mindset is, and that's what the bullish entrepreneur is all about.
We're going to be hosting stories on our Instagram of the questionnaire again, where we want to give away shirts for the bullish entrepreneur for the month of August. So be sure to go on there, ask the best question you can possible. We're going to choose the 5 best questions that are relevant to either this episode or what you would like to hear in the next episode. Also, feel free to give us feedback, tune into our YouTube channel, and give us comments, likes, any feedback that you want to give, whether good or bad. Subscribe, right? Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you again, guys. Check in for episode 3, and be sure to follow us at Bullish Entrepreneur on Instagram to tune into our questionnaire and be able to win one of our Bullish Entrepreneur shirts. Don't forget to grab life by the horns and live life bullish.
Take care, guys.